All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the third Excelero webinar of this year. For this webinar, we have a special guest, David Sallak from Pixit Media. Pixit Media are our trusted partner for the media and entertainment industry, and they built an end-to-end solution with Excelero's NVMesh. David is going to tell you all about it. Before I pass it over to David, I would like to share a couple of things. Everybody except David will be on mute, but we still want the webinar to be interactive. So at the bottom of the UI, you should see a Q&A button. Feel free to post as many relevant questions as you want. We will be working on answers during the webinar, but at the end of the presentation, I will present the most interesting questions to David so that he can answer them for everyone. With this, David, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. I'm going to go step right in to the presentation by covering, first of all, what's the agenda for today. So in today's session, we're going to do a brief introduction, myself and who Pixit Media is as an organization. And we're going to review the opportunity here that exists for everybody in the creative marketplace, which is how do you handle these new formats and media workflows that have extreme performance challenges and requirements. So we'll dive a bit into that. And we're going to cover off the solution review, which is how Pixit Media and Excelero guarantees performance with the pairing of Excelero NVMesh technology and PixStor software. So then we'll go into details, explaining how are the components able to deliver this performance and what kind of results you can expect. So first of all, let's start off with me. So my name is David Sallak. I'm your speaker for today. Been working in the media and entertainment space for nearly 20 years. Started off as a solution architect, working with customers based in the Chicago area, where I presently am based, and supporting what I would call the 30-second movie production experience, that is commercial television production in the central U.S. Working from there and a few certifications in media creative technologies, then branched out into working with EMC Iceland as a CTO of that organization because I fell in love with the concept of scale-out technology. The ability for studio organizations to expand and grow their technology with as minimal disruption as possible is a really critical business component to how I look at business success in the entertainment space. The more that organizations can leverage technologies that give them the performance they need and the flexibility and leverage to change and evolve and take advantage of new technology to pursue new projects with the least disruption possible, those are things I've been a big fan of in this storage space for many years, which is why I'm a part of Pixit Media. So this is a technology company based out of the UK, but growing rapidly worldwide, that makes a product called PixStor. It is software-defined storage, and you can see these various capabilities that PixStor enables. We take a software-led approach toward being able to develop solutions to customer problems in the creative marketplace. So one of the best things Pixit Media does is sit down with customers and ask them, what is the biggest problem you have that gets in the way of you being able to take on and complete your next project? We take those problems that are shared with us, and we developed PixStor to solve them. And you can see, starting with being able to protect and enable with powerful tools, the ability to process your data, as well as manage it effectively, keep it secure, enable collaboration, especially over distance, and enhance the ability to find your data, as well as leverage tooling in the cloud to be able to get your workflows done better. These are the things that PixStor cares about passionately. Let's talk a little bit about PixStor in North America. So I joined Pixit Media back in September as a part of our expansion in the North American market. We have hundreds of customers in the media and entertainment space in Europe and have been deployed around the globe since 2010. But you can see with some of the logos we're sharing here, we have a number of customer success stories that go towards being the storage record for being able to overcome technology problems they did not think were possible using existing technologies. So these organizations have seen that with PixStor technology and the way we approach designing it, we're able to help these organizations take on any project out there. So speaking of taking on every project, let's define a problem. So one of the things that Pixit Media has been very good at doing for the past 8-9 years has been taking advantage of the fact that when we engage customers and ask them what do they need, what problem do they need solved, it's about the constant need for more performance. It's a constant thing that occurs within the media and entertainment space, that when considering new technology investments, one measures that investment by seeing what the potential is that the technology can accomplish in workflow. How fast, how powerful, how flexible is that technology? Because these are the realities of today when dealing with these larger media formats. When considering a typical 4K deliverable packaged in a reel format that goes from the legacy film reel of around 20 minutes of media, what would be a deliverable of 1.5 terabytes of data in 4K format has quadrupled in size if you consider delivering it in 8K format as an expression of what does it mean to work in that. But ultimately, it's an even bigger problem because one thinks about the workflow data chain that produces this data and how much horsepower is needed by the workstation and how much bandwidth is necessary to get the data in and out of these powerful workstations. We're talking gigabyte per second performance requirements are everyday norms for being able to work with media formats these days. And with this as the defined problem, and customers coming to us saying they need to be able to handle higher performance requirements because the technology they have available to them enables creative possibilities to create imagery not even imagined 3 to 5 years ago and deliver it in ways that audiences can consume across UHD television sets, large screen format experiences in public spaces, VR and immersive technologies to be able to consume this media in all kinds of new and possibly imagined ways, means that the technology to produce it has to be more powerful than ever. So we call these things barriers to growth. And these are the problems that organizations have to overcome if they're going to take on new projects. And it's a variety of things that encompass both the technology factors as well as the human factors. Being able to enable teams to collaborate and work together, ensure that it is secure and that there is no lock-in to that so that you can expand and enable new technology workflows, such as leveraging cloud tools with AI capabilities to be able to analyze and extract more metadata from your data, from your created media, in order to be able to make better decisions about how to use the best elements of that media to deliver a compelling creative experience. What Pixit Media does is we take the approach of guaranteeing performance while giving you the scale and market choice to be able to consume the best technologies that allow you to get the work done, but do it in a cost-effective manner. So this is how we do it. For taking on NEK projects, the challenge is the new project may have performance that you have the ability to deliver with the infrastructure you have today. We know that in the media and entertainment marketplace, quite often there's been existing storage investments from a variety of other vendors that deliver good technology, but it no longer is capable of being able to deliver the workflow need of the future. So your storage investment still delivers value today, but how do you do more with it and extend it? That's the combination of PixStor technology by Pixit Media with Excelero. So this combination allows you to take your existing technology and take on more. So you can go pursue that additional project with larger NEK requirements. So let's dive into this a little bit. We'll start first with Excelero. And for many of you who've been in the webinars that have been sponsored by Excelero so far, you may be familiar with these things, but it's worth a refresh just to be able to touch on what does Excelero do in the marketplace that is so groundbreaking and unique. So first of all, we have to understand what are the foundations of what Excelero does, and that has to do with the technology. So there are two forms of that technology. And the first is NVMe drives. They've been around for a few years, and they are an amazing solid-state memory format that vastly reduces latency and increases bandwidth compared to traditional SSD-based flash storage interfaces. For years, NVMe has been deployed as a single-point topology enhancement. So within workstations, adding NVMe means you're tapping into a much faster data bus, being able to exploit, being able to hit new performance capabilities in the local workstation with NVMe drives. However, there may be underutilized phases of that deployment because it's non-redundant, it's individually managed on a per workstation basis deploying NVMe. So the second revolution is NVMe over RoCE. And RoCE is RDMA, Remote Direct Memory Access, over Converged Ethernet. It's an astonishingly fast transport protocol that bypasses legacy storage bottlenecks, getting the data directly to workgroups of servers and high-end workstations with no restrictions. On top of that, Excelero introduced NVMesh, extending NVMe over RoCE, creating a truly groundbreaking storage fabric architecture that breaks all performance boundaries. And with this foundation, Pixit Media enters and adds the workflow element that is Pickstore. So when considering high-end edit, finish, and VFX workflows, Pixit Media's Pickstore, software-defined storage, when coupled with Excelero NVMesh, takes NVMe drives and dedicated storage servers and virtualizes them into aggregated volumes, rapidly accessed via shared resources for multiple clients over high-performance Ethernet. The emerging trend in workflow is about how to take the data lifecycles that exist and manage them as they start to bifurcate into two layers. There's a hot data lifecycle and a cold tier data lifecycle. The common theme emerging here is that with architectures such as Excelero-powered Pickstore, we'll create a hot data layer coupled with local-based or cloud-based object infrastructure for cold data, and manage that all with Pickstore's data placement policy engine to automatically tier data into lower cost storage for higher capacity requirements. So what does this look like? Let's dive into some of the components. So Pickstore plus Excelero, we call this our software-defined future-proof architecture. It's a blazingly fast, future-proof technology that overcomes storage server bottlenecks to deliver the highest possible performance, accelerating uncompressed workflows at any K resolution. Delivers the maximum throughput to a single client, possible to achieve over 20 gigabytes per second single stream performance to multiple workstations or servers over Ethernet. And this aggregate performance scales linear by adding more NVMesh target nodes and NVMe drives under the Excelero NVMesh fabric. And with a software-defined future-proof architecture of Pickstore, this allows studios to keep up with ever-expanding resolution changes, frame rate improvements, and color depth requirements, to leverage incremental improvements in industry-standard technologies such as servers, networks, and NVMe storage. Leverage these technologies over time without having to disruptively tear out proprietary hardware and start over again. So the theme you should pick up here from Pixit Media and Excelero is we take a software-first approach in our philosophy to knit these technologies together over Ethernet in order to be able to deliver a powerful performance fabric and give you the ability to scale your deployments in order to be able to take on any project. So let's illustrate that. By removing legacy bottlenecks, we can unlock extreme performance. So this is a typical architecture technology layer where Mellanox fabric is the center of everything. Normally one thinks of storage as the center of the workflow, but in this case, an Excelero and Pixit Media architecture takes the view that with Mellanox in the center as a 100 gigabit Ethernet fabric, all kinds of possibilities and workflow emerge. So we start with an Excelero NVMesh volume that is created and managed by Pickstore, served out over 100 gigabit Ethernet through industry standard Mellanox Spectrum Ethernet switches. With Excelero NVMesh, there's no bottlenecks from RAID controllers or proprietary hardware. It's all industry standard hardware. And when we take away those legacy layers, all that remains is the raw performance of NVMe flash, the low latency of the PCI bus that's hosting all that NVMe flash, presented out through the enormous bandwidth of 100 gigabit network connectivity. High-end workstations, as you see illustrated across the top, can connect to this NVMe network fabric to address volumes directly without having to go through storage servers. If an NVMe mesh node or drive fails, the redundancy is handled transparently without the need for administrative intervention by the Pickstore file system to create and repair the file system when there are component failures that occur with no disruption to client I/O. Clients do not see the actual NVMe drives, they see virtualized volumes that are presented to them as users. These NVMe drives can scale capacity and performance linearly within a single namespace, making the management and the use easy. One can start as small as a half dozen or more NVMe drives in a single NVMesh namespace, up to hundreds or thousands of NVMe drives fabric together into an NVMesh layer. Unique to the combined Pickstore and Exelero solution, there's almost zero overhead on the client or the NVMesh target servers delivering the performance to the clients, leaving CPU and memory almost 100% available for applications. And for clients that do not have native NVMesh access, such as Mac and Windows clients, they get the ability to tap into the performance of NVMesh via their protocol access. So in this architecture, you're going to see there's Pickstore servers at the bottom layer. They manage the POSIX compliant namespace so that everybody is able to perform their reads and writes in collaboration together through the Mellanox network. They are able to access the NVMesh layer. For those Linux clients, they get native access to the NVMesh storage layer managed by Pickstore. For Windows and Mac clients, they're going to be coming in through protocols, but they are able to access that through our SMB gateways that also support search and analytics and manage the namespace of Pickstore through the Mellanox fabric. What this ultimately means is, in a single topology, all clients have access to an NVMesh layer of Excelero for extreme performance. At the very highest end, the Linux clients get that native server assist workflow performance benefit, but all clients get the benefit of the performance regardless of the way that they access. So how it works. Let's first of all take the fact that each NVMesh storage component is represented like a target. So if you think in terms of where clients read their data, it's a concept of an NVMesh target. And we mesh multiples of those together with Excelero software to be able to take each target and deliver more than 20 gigabytes of read performance to clients. So an NVMesh node is a target, and it fits within a simple commodity server, the item you see in the bottom of the illustration on your screen. It contains a CPU, a relatively small amount of memory, and high bandwidth 100 gigabit network interconnect. That NVMesh target or node can be multiplied by, in this case, a 2RU server holding 3 or 4 NVMesh nodes, being able to present all of this performance at 20 gigabytes per second per storage node. So you can see in a single 2RU chassis, we have these developed to deploy 60 or even 80 gigabytes of performance in a minimum of 2RU of space on industry standard hardware provided by a number of suppliers in the marketplace, names of whom you may be familiar with. If you were to engage with us, you would see vendors such as Dell and HP and Supermicro that are industry standard suppliers of server hardware being able to deploy this. And we support all of them because at Pixit Media, we take a software first philosophy to let you leverage the best in breed hardware suppliers to be able to choose your hardware based solution and run a PixStor architecture on top of it. This is an important benefit in many modern studio environments, where by leveraging Excelero on NVMe, you could overcome space and power limitations where they are in very short supply in urban areas, such as dense areas in New York City or high cost per square footage environments such as Los Angeles, and being able to get the most performance out of your limited footprint of available performance space inside your data center of a creative facility. We then need to take a moment and talk about how this performance is delivered to clients. And that has to do with the fact that we are close partners with Mellanox Technologies. We measure over 22 gigabytes per second of performance to a single or server or workstation from an NVMesh system using 2 100 gigabit Ethernet connections to a workstation. If that's more than you need, throughput requirements up to 10 gigabytes per second are possible with only a single optical Ethernet cable and a single port Ethernet card from Mellanox connecting to that workstation. Compare that to traditional fiber channel based solutions, where in legacy situations, it would require 8 16 gigabit fiber channel connections, or in modern topologies, 4 32 gigabit fiber channel connections to meet this equivalent performance requirement of a single port 100 gigabit Ethernet card from Mellanox, or to even get close to accomplishing 20 gigabytes per second through 2 100 gigabits of Ethernet. So the cost per fiber channel port is quite high by comparison to 100 gigabit Ethernet. And you take into account what else is happening in the marketplace of media and entertainment when it comes to how data moves over Ethernet. The conversions of video transport over IP, now standardized by SMPTE, means creative studios recognize Ethernet is a standard topology that's moving in the right direction throughout the facility. You take into account announcements such as the recent announcements where VizRT and their acquisition of NewTek, because of their desire to leverage standardized IP protocols for video transport. And you have to recognize the opportunity today by the suppliers in the marketplace is to leverage Ethernet to be able to move all data. So now you take into account cloud workflows, and especially cloud transport workflows. There's every reason to standardize on Ethernet today. And the best benefit is that Pixit Media guarantees this performance on Ethernet because of our partnership with Mellanox and our leverage of Excelero to be the platform of NVMesh and deliver that performance via Mellanox infrastructure to Ethernet connected clients. So what does that look like when we talk about performance? So let's talk about what Pixit Media has measured in our new application lab that we've set up. We started with a powerful 2U multi-node server deployed with Excelero NVMesh, and we tested it with leading color finishing and grading clients. And we can deliver amazing performance levels via this Exelero-powered PixStor platform. And you can take a look by the stream counts here. Any of these formats of performance are possible through just a simple 2RU deployment of NVMesh in combination with PixStor to an environment. So being able to support enormous quantities of HD 2K formats as well as modern deliverables in UHD format. And then going beyond that, maybe you're working in VFX where there are some image plates that are coming in beyond 4K and even that to 8K playback format or 8K process format. And how do you play this media if you want to be able to work with 1 to 3 seconds of this because you're focused on shots? You need to be able to work with these formats in work teams and collaborate together and not have bottlenecks in performance. It's all possible with the extreme performance guarantee that Pixit Media delivers on a PixStor solution powered by Exelero, up to 12 streams of 3x4 format, 8x10-bit, 8K 10-bit DPX at 24 frames per second is entirely possible and real today. And Pixit Media is aware of some workflow requirements that are being put out there by new emerging studios that are disrupting pipelines by suggesting that an 8K deliverable is not outside the norm of possibility in 2019. So when it comes to what your studio has as the possibilities of workflow, you really need to think in terms of taking on that next project and ensuring that you can get that project done. And if it exceeds your infrastructure capabilities today, this is how you do it. So let's break these components down as we get close to wrapping up the presentation. We'll start with PixStor. So at NAB, a conference that's debuting next week in Las Vegas, Pixit Media will launch PixStor 5. This is an enhanced capability platform that guarantees performance, scalability, and choice. So with our software, and now empowered with a powerful event and policy engine, we can deliver a global namespace with enhanced search capabilities and new secure compliant isolation of NAS shares to unlock multi-tenant capabilities. We're displaying this capability at our booth at, in the British Pavilion section of the Las Vegas Convention Center in the South Lower Hall. And you'll be able to take a look at how we are able to do TPN compliant audit secure workflows and be able to support that with 4K and 8K capabilities all within a single PixStor 5 namespace. We do this by partnering with Exelero. So we've deployed a software-defined open standard hardware platform that keeps customers empowered with the flexibility to avoid vendor lock-in and then be able to get most of the data protection services they seek and require with no extra cost, providing media organizations with economic advantages and more purchasing power for now and the future. Because Pixit Media takes a completely software-defined approach, studios that invest in the combination of Pixit Media and Exelero can keep up with ever-expanding resolutions frame rate changes, and color depth requirements through incremental improvements in commodity server, network, and NVMe storage technology over time, without having to disruptively tear out proprietary hardware and start over. Think about what Pickstore 5 does with Mellanox. None of what Excelero does with Pixit Media is possible without innovation that comes from Mellanox. We control ingress, egress, shaping, and data policies by leveraging what Mellanox brings to the table in their spectrum switching technologies. One has to imagine that in an architecture that's going to have an enormously fast data architecture with networking that can move data that fast, there are possible side effects that can occur. A single client could consume too much storage performance, such as copying files onto storage, and this could kill real-time playback that's happening on adjacent grading workstations. With Mellanox, we integrate with it to be able to adapt workloads and preserve the performance where it needs to be. So one of the powerful things that PixStor does with Mellanox technology is we can dynamically adapt to real-time and aggregate workloads to ensure that users never drop a frame when there is adjacent data moving, such as material coming from onset, and data wrangling technicians are moving that data off these onset platforms into a shared workspace of Pickstore. So we're able to monitor this with bandwidth and telemetry shaping, as well as display this to be able to ensure that users get the performance they need where they need it. At the Pixit Media booth at NAB, we're going to be showing an early preview of some Mellanox telemetry that we're able to display, being able to show storage node and IP bandwidth going across RDMA. If you recall, one of the key benefits that Excelero brings with their NVMesh is RoCE, the RDMA over Converged Ethernet software capability. So what we do at Pixit Media is leverage our ability to tap into Mellanox to display that RDMA traffic and show it as target performance. So you'll see performance that is delivered in the gigabytes per second coming out of an Excelero tier, as you see displayed in the Excelero target traffic space. So with this capability, we're able to show, by tapping into the Mellanox fabric, that the ability to show you exactly where your performance is going and how much performance is being used, you can get the best insights into your storage fabric. Now, one of the last considerations has to do with all this technology is great, but I have some storage technology already, and I don't want to displace that. I'm still leveraging it and using it. One of the cool advantages that Pickstore takes is the fact that it has an additional software component that's called Genia that allows us to connect Pickstore, powered by Exelero, to your existing storage environment across the Mellanox network fabric. So with our Genia HSM, this enables us to deliver an anywhere-to-anywhere intelligent data movement engine capability for Pickstore that allows us to be able to do several things. First of all, we can tier data to object and cloud environments, and we can also represent that data as a single namespace, regardless of whether the data is local on an Exelero tier or remote on a cloud tier. In addition, we also have the ability to take Pickstore and, by leveraging Genia, be able to overlay existing storage environments, such as scale-out NAS or SAN technologies, and represent all this as a single namespace. One of the cool capabilities that Genia gives Pickstore is the ability to stub data from a Pickstore environment to other spaces or tiers, such as maybe there's an existing tier 2 layer of scale-out NAS, and you want to continue to use it to stage data and be able to leverage your Pickstore environment with Exelero for only the fastest workflows. Then we can stub data to your existing scale-out NAS. Or we can do something called reverse stub. This allows us to be able to take data on your existing storage environment and create stubs of that data on a Pickstore environment or a Pickstore tier of Exelero. This allows users to see one tier for all their data, regardless of where the data actually lives. So this means every Pickstore instance deployed with an Genia engine moves data between Pickstore and object topologies and other POSIX topologies, including scale-out NAS and SAN environments, as well as being able to tier to the cloud. So to summarize this, we're getting to the point now that for Pixit Media, our software-led approach allows our customers to see that problem and overcome it. They can take on any project, regardless of bandwidth and IOPS requirements, and overcome any of their concerns over being able to meet their performance requirements or the capabilities of that format to be able to be processed inside their environment by adding PixStor. Our combination of working with Excelero for extreme performance that we guarantee through our software architecture of PixStor, software-defined storage, means that across a Mellanox Ethernet fabric, there are new modern ways to look at how to go forward in your workflows as we are getting on the cusp of the next decade of media and entertainment workflows and where they are going next. So Pixit Media delivers powerful data placement policy technologies that is called Pickstore. And we readily support future workflows by leveraging Excelero NVMesh technologies to be able to meet any performance requirement and offer the unique Pixit Media performance guarantee, where we will specify this is the performance you will get when a Pickstore environment is deployed. So if there are any inquiries, we want to make sure that you see there's a way to reach us here at Pixit Media, which is the email address you see on the screen. And Tom wanted to know in this presentation if we've had any interesting questions. We're happy to start discussing them now.
All right, David, first of all, thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not new to NVMesh, but I still learned a lot, so that was awesome. I got a few questions in here. Tim was asking me if there is a difference between native Pickstore client performance and the normal connected clients.
So there is a bit of a difference, and it has to do with the way that the NVMesh technology is engineered by Exelero and how Pixit Media exploits it. So the Rocky protocol is currently something that is built in as a communications layer for Linux clients. And there's additional work that needs to happen for Windows and Mac clients to be able to take advantage of that native protocol capability of RDMA over converged Ethernet. So given the fact that Linux clients have that built-in capability, Excelero exploits that within their NVMesh software stack. And that allows Linux clients to be able to get the maximum performance possible out of 100 gigabit Ethernet. It means that at the most powerful level, Linux workstations that are connected with dual 100 gigabit Ethernet can nearly saturate both of those links and achieve performance capabilities of over 20 gigabytes per second. For Windows and Mac clients that do not have the native ability to talk RDMA over converged Ethernet or Rocky and be able to talk, therefore, to the NVMesh layer natively, what they do is they go through Pickstore via traditional protocols, whether that's SMB or NFS. Even then, our engineering, we're working with the Pickstore architecture, allows us to deliver enormous potential on the performance side. Over 100 gigabit Ethernet, we're able to nearly saturate that link for SMB connected Windows clients. And over 40 gigabit links we've tested on the latest and most current generation iMac Pro systems to be able to deliver quite high performance numbers, nearly half of a 40 gigabit link on the performance side. So in those workflow environments that have multiple client platforms deployed, the best way to be able to get the performance, and you would find this out by talking with grading systems suppliers, such as Blackmagic Systems with their DaVinci platforms, or you consider what's going on with Baselight and other platforms such as Autodesk. You're going to find that those Linux-based platforms are the best way to exploit the performance that's possible on a NVMesh-powered architecture of Pickstore. But the reality of the market is there are usually Windows and Mac clients too, and they're able to get a lot of performance in the same architecture, but going through traditional SMB protocols. And this all means it comes together on the Pickstore workflow environment.
All right, thank you. That was very elaborate. I have another question from Alok. He is asking how the stubbing, the data stub and the reverse stub concepts work specifically in Pickstore and Genia.
So the Pixit Media organization developed in Genia as a data movement and policy engine in order to be able to solve one of the biggest challenges we were hitting when we were talking with customers, which is, I love Pickstore, I love what your capabilities are, but I need to be able to work with the technology I have. How can you help me avoid all the data management chaos that results from having data on my existing storage, but also having data on a Pickstore? So we developed in Genia to create the ability to do two things, which is to make a single namespace for all the data on your existing storage and a new Pickstore look like it's on a Pickstore. And we do that by using a concept called stub, which is basically, think of it as like a reference to the actual media. So we do two concepts with our Genia technology and Pickstore workflow, which is we can stub data, which means we could take data on Pickstore, and when a project is complete, say it's a project that was working on Excelero tier, and we need to move it off that Excelero tier to make room for the next project. What our Genia does is it moves the essence data, or the core data, off of the Excelero-powered Pickstore tier onto another layer of storage. And that could be existing storage that is POSIX-based, such as NAS, or that could be some other storage such as object, or even cloud. And what happens is a stub is left behind on the Pickstore Excelero tier, so that it looks like the file is there, but in fact it is not. And what customers said is, that's cool, but I also have data on existing storage, and I don't want to migrate all of it onto my new Excelero-powered Pickstore. How do I keep the data where it is, but have the Excelero-powered Pickstore see it as native into my Pickstore storage? And that's a reverse stub concept. So we'll read the data with our Genia engine on an existing storage, and we'll create stubs and write those stubs onto the Pickstore Excelero layer. A stub is very small. It could be kilobytes in size, but it contains all the metadata elements necessary for being able to point to that existing data as it exists on existing storage and be able to reference it from a Pickstore Excelero namespace. We call that reverse stub. And customers love it when they realize the power of being able to have all the workflow look like the storage is in one space, and the volume is one single volume managing all of the data elements. That's our stub and reverse stub technology inside of a Genia-powered Pickstore.
All right, thank you, David. Maybe we have time for one more question. Jane is asking what a minimal configuration looks like.
So at a bare minimum, you can actually come and see some of this at our NAB booth. What we have the ability to deploy is an environment that would have, in a Excelero-powered Pickstore, we would have an architecture that would, at the Excelero layer, be an industry standard server, and it would need to have our recommendation for high availability would be at least 2 storage nodes, and there would need to be a minimum of at least 2 NVMe drives per storage node. So at a complete bare minimum, 4 NVMe drives and 2 storage nodes in a single 2RU server would be able to meet the Excelero tier requirement of high availability and extreme performance. After that, it's a matter of scale. You can take that same storage server and add more NVMe drives, which look like 2.5-inch SSD drives, but have a special interface. And that interface allows them to talk through a PCI bus. And you add those to the slots on a Excelero-powered storage server. And with this, you can scale from that bare minimum of 4 NVMe drives, and generally recommended to go in increments of 4 to 8. So you would go from 4 to 8 to 16 to 24 drives of NVMe. And that gives you a commensurate increase in linear performance and capacity delivered through the 100 gigabit networking out the back of a storage node powered by NVMesh Architecture software. And on the Pickstore layer, we would have 1 or 2 Pickstore nodes that would run our file system. That would be a bare minimum architecture. Beyond that comes scale. If the performance requirements need to have more monitoring for being able to search for assets and manage the metadata of those assets, so there may be a media asset management system deployed, then we would break off certain components into additional servers. But at a bare minimum, one Excelero-powered NVMe storage node with 4 NVMe drives and 2 storage servers inside, plus at least one PixStor storage node to be able to manage the file system. Power that all with a Mellanox 12 or 24 port Spectrum Ethernet switch, and you're off to the races. It's not that complicated to be able to deploy a Pickstore environment with Excelero.
Okay, and then I'm getting one question from John on whether you tested Dell EMC's Scale.io and how NVMesh differentiates from that.
So we haven't tested them, but that's one of the beauties of being able to work with Dell EMC, is they are a technology partner for us. So we have deployed instances of Excelero on Dell server hardware. We typically use the 740 class servers from Dell to be able to deploy both Excelero storage nodes as well as Pickstore server nodes. And with that relationship that we have with Dell, it's quite easy for us to be able to tap into being able to stand up a Scale.io instance inside of our storage environment and do performance comparisons. One of the things we would probably want to do in that case is leverage our lab. So we maintain a lab in Southern California, as well as our main lab, where we have most of our data scientists and research developers over in the London area. And we would be able to stand up a Scale.io instance and leverage our Genia software to do a data I/O comparison and see what kind of workflows would be enhanced by the addition of a Scale.io capable tier to a Genia managed Pickstore environment powered by Excelero. So the power to tap into that, merely because we use Dell hardware for a lot of our deployments, makes it quite easy for us to consider what's possible in this example. So that's a great inquiry to reach out to the email address you see on the screen and forward that our way so that we can do a follow-up conversation with you to get more into the workflow problem that we solve by the consideration of Scale.io in this architecture.
All right, good. One last question from Jane. How do we buy this?
It's a great question. So that's a good follow-up for that email address to see right here. Pixit Media collaborates with Exelero to be able to have a reseller channel that we partner with for various regions of North America. So we have resellers that cover Southern California, as well as the majority of Canada and Eastern US. So the best way to be able to work with us is to contact us at the info@pixitmedia.com. And let's talk about being able to work with one of our technology partners in the reseller space that we can suggest, or you may also have a hardware relationship. If you work with Dell or HP, please reach out to us that channel to be able to find the right partner and get the solution deployed for you.
All right, David, I got one more just came in from Keith. Can you reverse stub to the cloud using S3?
Absolutely, yes, we can. We support any platform that is S3 compliant, and we qualified most of them in our lab. And fortunately, whether it's a commercial branded S3 storage experience, such as a SwiftStack or Scality or other platforms, or even Ceph, or we're working with S3 compliance cloud providers such as Amazon or any other storage providers that choose not to use S3, but maybe work with the Google Cloud Platform or Microsoft Azure. And Genia software supports tiering and stub to all of those object-based environments.
All right, David, thank you very much. I see no other questions coming in. I think we did nicely in 45 minutes. Everybody, you see info@pixitmedia.com or info@exelero.com for any other follow-up questions. I would like to thank everybody for showing up in such a large number. David, thank you very much for a great presentation and for answering all those questions. We will be hosting a next webinar a month from now. You will for sure get a short email about that. For now, thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your day, and see you sometime soon. Bye-bye.